Feeling stuck or unfulfilled? Searching for more meaning in your work and life? Wondering what's next? You're not alone, and you're in the right place. This is Focus on Why, the podcast that turns reflection into action. I'm Amy Rowlandson, and each week I dive deep with guests who've chosen to live and work with purpose. Together we explore what drives them, shapes their decisions, and gives their life meaning. Through real stories and honest conversations, you'll discover how to gain clarity, make confident choices, and create a life that truly matters. Have a purpose, have a plan, focus on why. Before we dive in, do you need help creating a more purposeful way of life? Through one-to-one coaching, I can help you clarify your why and create a plan that aligns your values with your work. Book a free 30-minute discovery call with me today. The booking link is in the show notes. Today on Focus on Why, I am joined by Nathalie Cordell. Welcome.
Thank you. Thanks for having me, Amy.
Oh, pleasure. A huge thank you to a lovely Rachel Power who's introduced us.
I love that you name her. Yes, she's a connector, and yeah, I'm grateful for her too.
Fantastic. So let's kick this conversation off, Nathalie, with what is it you're focusing on right now?
So my main focus at the moment is to work on my book. Well, actually work. I've just published my first book called Awakening the Sleeping Queen, How to Reclaim Your Feminine Wisdom and Power. And it's published back in April. And so really my focus in life at the moment is to be the ambassador for that work, because I really believe in its message. I know it's already had an incredible impact on the people who've read it. So I want to bring it to as many people, as many women mainly, as it can serve.
This ambassador role that you've taken on, what does it mean to you?
It's really, it's a phrase that actually I heard Elizabeth Gilbert talk about in a conference, because people were asking her about the creative journey, and I really loved it. You know, this idea that there's different parts of us, and there's the creative part, you know, there's the artist, there's the project manager, you know, we all have different roles that we play, and to see a creative project into the world, to put our voice into the world, there are many parts that most people don't see. And actually this part of bringing out something into the world is different, and it's being of service. I mean, in a way, all of the parts, to me, the artist is also being of service. It's kind of, how can I serve the message that wants to come through me? You know, how can I serve what life wants from me? And ambassador is the same. And in many ways, what surprised me is that I find it an easier role, because I can kind of step aside. The book is there. Yes, I wrote it. Yes, there's a lot of me in it, but it's about its message, and it's being of service to something that's bigger than me.
And it seems that we have arrived at purpose so fast into this conversation.
Yes.
This ambassador role, this serving, this what does life want from me? It all links to purpose. Tell me more.
I almost find it hard to put into words, which I know is difficult, because that's the whole purpose of your podcast, to try and express something through words that's so elusive. And for me, you know, purpose, I've always feel like I've chased my purpose as something that I needed to get or to find, or to, something outside of me, my whole life, actually. And the more, I think that the more I let go, and the more I let go of that chase, the more I feel like I'm getting it. But it's it's been a journey. I think in a way, you do have to spend the first half of your life or whatever, you know, looking outside and becoming individual. And then around midlife, that's what happened to me. And I think that's what I talk about in the book. There's a shift from actually more like, what do I want from life, to what does life want from me? And this call for service, and this idea that actually we're not separate. Yes, we are individual, but we're also part of a whole, and we all have a part to play in that whole. And your purpose, my purpose, is very individual. It's as unique as your thumbprint. If I could sum it up in a nutshell, it's just being more you, whatever that is. So that's been my purpose. It's actually finding out who am I and how can I be more of myself, my true essence, and be the best of that as I can be.
So who is Nathalie Cordell?
I'm a very bright spirit. I think I'm going to bring spirituality in it. And it's not, I always use the word with caution. I used to put a lot of caution into it because I used to have resistance to it, if I'm honest. This idea of spirituality kind of gets lumped in with religion. But I think, actually, when we talk about spirit and soul, we talk about somebody who's spirited. We all know what that means. It doesn't have to be controversial. So there's something of, I feel like everyone has an essence, almost like a vibration and an energy to them. And I feel like I'm a very joyful, bright, bubbly spirit, full of light and love. And I try and express that in lots of different ways. And yes, some of it is to do with the work I do in the world, coaching or writing or facilitating. But ultimately, I just want to enjoy that life to the fullest, and hopefully inspire others to do the same.
This awakening of the sleeping queen and reclaiming the feminine wisdom and power. Now, book titles are hard to hone in and decide upon. This doesn't feel like that for you or for me, from my perspective. This felt like it was a title that was just given or there. Or was that, am I just imagining this?
I wish, yes. I love that you think that. I absolutely love that. Oh yeah, I wish that it just landed. And well, it sort of did, but to give you an insight on the behind the scene, it was called, the working title when I first started writing was Awakening the Beauty Within. And the reason for this is that the book actually uses the metaphor of the sleeping beauty to guide the reader, guide me through the journey of life in a way. It's also based on the heroine's journey. And Sleeping Beauty being the metaphor of the one of the feminine journey. I mean, I know I resonate a lot with that path, a lot of other women. It may not be everybody's myth, but it's this idea that we all have a myth that we kind of reproduce. And Sleeping Beauty is the myth of shutting away a part of us, the tender, soft, feminine parts, and kind of protecting it in the tower with briars, thorns, but eventually the thorns give way to roses, and then there's the prince come in and the evil witch. And actually this idea that all these archetypes are part of us. So to me it was about, awakening the beauty within, the beauty being that the very soft, our true essence. And I know I was given feedback that, well, this could mean lots of things. It could be about external beauty, lots of different things. So I played with AI, actually, kind of telling it what my book was about and sort of giving me idea, and tried different versions. And then when it gave back to me the Awakening the Sleeping Queen, I was just like, oh my God, this is it. This is the one. So that title was then fixed. And then the subtitle, yeah, no, it was very, very difficult. I played with lots of different ones about what it's about, what it should be, and trying to explain what it is, and didn't want to deceive people. So I was going to say intellectual titles about, journey to wholeness, all sorts of versions. But I ultimately, yeah, it's with friends, actually, just giving them over to friends and some people, someone that you might know, actually, another friend of Rachel, Karen Jones, who's also in the circle of one of many, just say, yeah, that's the one. And she kind of simplified it, and I was like, okay, yeah, that sounds good.
Oh, I love Karen. Actually, I need to get Karen on the podcast. She has
Yes.
evaded me to date. So yes, let's get Karen on. This awakening, reclaiming, it's already there. It's there. It's been there. It's not a case of it's external. And this
Mm,
is what I talk about with purpose, that it is something that you create and you feel from within, and it's there. And it's for you to recognize that you alone hold the power.
mm.
Tell me more about this awakening that you had in midlife to then want to share this with others.
Yeah, yeah. And it was a very Slow and steady, I would say. So I do describe in the book that I had this idea of when people talk about their awakening, it's like this big thing and they have a big life event and their life transforms. And I kind of had this vision, a bit like the fairy tale, you know, the Sleeping Beauty. She just finds the prince and he kisses her and she opens her eyes and it's just all lovely and beautiful and just, you know, bathed in golden light. You know, that was my very romanticized idea of awakening. And yeah, it really wasn't that. To me, it was a very long fumble in the dark about, you know, trial and error and trying to find, you know, what was my place in the world, why was I here, and what was the one. So this feeling of always looking for the one, whether it's purpose or the one partner or the one job, you know, this wanting this moment of recognition. But there was, you know, there was some key moments along the way, and one of them, well, the very big turning point was actually nearly resigning. I really came to a point where I thought, I just can't do this anymore. I can't go to the office and pretend that I'm enjoying this or it's meaningful. And I'd already been on a search for what's my purpose. You know, I've been doing this. My background is in corporate pharmaceuticals, so I had been doing this job for about 15 years at the time. And there was a growing discontent for no apparent reason. You know, I had a great boss, brilliant team, you know, lovely house, I was married, had a child. So there's no apparent reason for this discontent, and yet it just kept growing. And in 2008, what kind of accelerated things was that my mum and my sister were both diagnosed with cancer within 6 months of each other. So that kind of, you know, really just took me away even more from the material life and feeling that, you know, spreadsheets and deadlines and objectives and any of that mattered. I just really felt like I just want life. I want more, whatever that is, and I want it now. And so I nearly resigned and my boss offered me coaching. And that was the beginning of that journey of awakening, of suddenly realizing that actually, even though I do have all the answers, which is the purpose of coaching, I do have blind spots and I have a lot of barriers. So, and to cut a long story short, that journey also led me to psychosynthesis, which is a psychology of the soul. And at that point, I had no spiritual inclination. You know, if anything, as a scientist, you know, I believe in hard facts. But there was this moment, this meditation where we were invited to, it's called a disidentification meditation, that is at the core of psychosynthesis, where you just sort of identify in terms with your body and then let go, and with your mind and then let go, and with your feelings and let go. And you're sort of, it's an invitation to connect with what's there, what remains when we let go of all of those things that we identify with. And yeah, I'll never forget that moment. It was a feeling of coming home. And you know, I'd love to say, and again, I write about it in the book, that after that, you know, it's like, oh, it was just all lovely and rainbow from then on. But actually, to me, that's when the long search and the hard work started, of peeling the layers, a lot of healing, a lot of uncovering what was inside me that just needed to be let go of and healed. But yeah, it's like peeling the layers, as you say. I love this idea that you say, you know, it's already all inside you. If you even if you don't know your purpose, you're living it. You don't have to know it to live it. And your purpose is seeking you as much as you're seeking it. So it's been a peeling the layers off has been my experience.
How empathetic, sympathetic was your boss to recognize that you didn't need to jump ship at the time? You didn't need to like burn all the bridges. It was just a case of let's just see if this helps.
I mean, I love her. I mean, we're still in touch. We're still, you know, and she still means a lot to me. And I know it meant a lot to her, actually. We just had a conversation 2 days ago about that, where she says how to recognize her little part. Well, she called it little. I don't call it little, but her part in completely transforming my life journey, that turning point, and what I've done with it, you know, is really moving for her as well as me. I was so trapped in the tower at the time, you know, that feeling of I can't speak out. I can't put words to my experience. I think there was so much shame around it, so much. I never defined myself as a people pleaser. I really didn't think, I don't think that's what I was. And even now, if anything, the opposite. But I was so trapped in this feeling of imposter, of I'm just not cut out for this, because at the time I had taken a stretch role outside my comfort zone and I felt like a total fraud. And I just said, I just don't think I can do this anymore. And I didn't even have the guts to tell her face to face. I emailed her that evening. We had a strategy session in London. I kind of remember feeling like this is my moment, I can lead with passion and purpose. And halfway through the workshop, she butted in and sort of redirected the workshop. And she even said to me at that lunchtime, oh, I'm sorry, I feel like I've undermined you. But I'd been holding so much up until that point, my sister and my mum diagnosed with cancer, all of this, that it wasn't that. I think it was just a straw that broke the camel's back. Two things she said to me is, if you want to do this job, you can. So she really kept giving me the feedback, you're doing a great job. I wasn't feeling it. But the other thing that she said to me was huge, was if you want to resign, you can. That's okay. And actually that was huge, because it just lifted huge weight of guilt on my shoulders, because up until that point I'd been wrestling, I felt very loyal to my team, I loved them, and I kind of had this sense of responsibility and burden that, you don't just quit. You kind of, you have to be there for other people. So when she, in a way, gave me the permission, I mean, I'd already said I don't think I can do it. It was just a huge relief that, I can do this and not be judged or called a pariah or, traitor or give it up or anything like that. And then when she said yes, and if you want, how about coaching? It was almost like this third option that was there. And at the time I thought, I'm very skeptical of coaching, I'll be honest. This idea that I have all the answers in me and you're just here to help me find them. I already know, I was very much in this, as you know, the word superwoman mode. Don't need anyone. I can resolve any problem by myself. If there's a problem I need to fix, I'll know the answer. Thank you very much. So who are you to help me do that? So I was very, very skeptical. But I thought, I've got nothing to lose, the door to... And at that point, I really thought the resignation was there. I was almost like, no, I'm taking it anyway. But let's just see what this coaching has to offer. And, we'll see. I might just then leave in another, in a couple of months.
I love that you said that I can problem solve this myself, so that you knew that the answers are from within, but you didn't need help actually identifying that from someone.
Yes, well, yeah. Whether that was whether that was a knowing or a armor protection, like, I don't. Yeah, I think maybe a bit of both. I think most of the latter, actually. I think it was a protection, a kind of. I'm used to counting on myself only. So, but it was. I think the difference, actually, that's a very subtle difference. It's a different self. And I don't know if that will make sense to you, but I think the point of view that I was coming from was I can count on myself, and it's very much the ego. It's very much the willpower whereas when I say all the answers are within you, and to me, that's what the coaching helped me access, actually, is actually you accessing a different self. You accessing your higher self, deeper self, wiser self, whatever you want to call it. Yes, they're in you, but it's a different part of you, a part that's actually bigger than your little ego, and that does have all the answers. But accessing that, there's a lot of layers of noise and conditioning and overthinking in the way. So to me, the coaching was about actually accessing that true, what's really in your heart, and those were some of the questions in coaching. Was like, what really matters to you? Why? I remember that question, why, which I love, because that's the title of your podcast. Why does it matter to you? Why do you want this? And I'd never asked myself those questions. So yeah, it was like a melting away. I think your question was about awakening, but to me, awakening was that softening and melting away of something, so you can get in touch with what's really in your heart.
And it's the vulnerable self that was revealed.
Yeah. And as I say, you know, this idea that actually when you open your heart, it's not all lovely what comes out first. You know, the image that I use is Pandora's box. And I don't know if you know the myth. Yeah, this idea of Pandora being the first woman created by the gods, given as gift to Prometheus, but actually not to Prometheus's brother, not as a real gift, but as a punishment. And she was given this box, told not to open it, and of course she opened it, and then all the evil and suffering and descended upon the world, and so she was scared and shut it down, and inside was left hope and love, which she didn't know. So to me, there's something about, yeah, when you first open the box, when you first open the heart, there's all that suffering that you've shut down from your past, from whatever, that you just didn't want to feel, and you there's no way out of it. You have to feel it. But eventually it's like a cleansing, you know, eventually the more you allow yourself to feel in a safe place. So, you know, there's hence the coaching. I had therapy, I had lots of other, you know, circle of women to support. You realize your heart is strong, and actually you can open it and you can feel even the pain, but you can also feel the joy and the love.
Love it. Joy, love, hope.
Mm.
You mentioned earlier about how you'd felt an imposter, a fraud, you not necessarily a people pleaser, but that you were experiencing all of these other feelings and the shame. And we do hold ourselves a prisoner within our own mind. And it is around mental liberation in combination with the opening of the heart that we can free ourselves.
Oh, I love that. I love that mental liberation in combination with opening of the heart. That's so beautiful. Yes, and I don't know if there's a question there, but what comes up for me when you said that, it was that liberation of the mind, because actually I think the mind was holding me prisoner. There, I was very identified with my mind. So in psychosynthesis term, we talk about identification. So I thought I was my mind, and then we think our thoughts are us. So we have bad thoughts, and we think, oh my God, I'm bad. When we're trapped in overthinking and judgment, you know, we think, oh, we believe our thoughts. So that exercise of, even I remember in the meditation saying I have a mind and I am not my mind, was like a huge relief. I'm not my mind. And that opening of the heart, you know, the mind is brilliant. And that's also been on my journey to actually learn to really appreciate my mind and to really love it for what it does for me, and to also put it in its place, not in the control chair, not at the top of the pyramid. Actually, I think the heart is more, you know, the center of the soul for me. And to just have the mind be a servant to it, rather than, there's a quote attributed to Einstein. I can't give you the quote exactly, but yeah, I think that a lot of us are servants to our mind, and the mind thinks it's the master, when really the mind needs to be in service of our deeper self.
I've just checked what it is that you think you might be looking for. The intuitive mind is a sacred gift, and the rational mind is a faithful servant.
That's the one.
There we are. I mean, whether he's been attributed to it or not, or wherever the source is, it's the context and the actual meaning behind what you're trying to say. You mentioned Elizabeth Gilbert earlier. I absolutely love the work and the offering that she brings to the table. There's also a lot of what you're sharing takes me to Byron Katie and the work that she's done in loving what is, in the reality of what is going on and how we try to fight reality, and we go against lots of things. And it's about embracing what is. And yeah, go check her out if you haven't been aware of her work, because it is phenomenal. I want to also just take you back to the resistance that you said you had around spirituality, and the links that you had sort of preconceived around that, or your limiting beliefs that prevented you, but you allowed that resistance to ebb, to
Mm,
disappear. Tell me what that has brought you now by embracing it.
gosh, I feel emotional, even just like how that question's landing, because so much, everything, it's transformed my life. So joy, joy, tremendous amount of joy and love. Everything that I was looking for outside of myself, I just found within the spirit in me by connecting with that. My learning, so the resistance, I don't know if you want me to go into this, but the resistance, a lot of it was because of the association with religion. So I grew up in France. France is a very secular country, so there's a separation between religion and the state. So the feeling I had growing up, I wasn't my both my parents were raised Catholic, and they made the decision not to pass that on in terms of that very rigid, oh, you must go to church and you must be a good girl or a good boy. So they didn't Christian us, and actually that was like a rebellious thing to do, from my dad's side of the family particularly. They were kind of hippies, I guess, in the intellectual hippies. But what happened is that they didn't really pass on that spirituality. It was kind of just, yeah, okay, anti-religion. And the phrase I use is I kind of just threw the spiritual baby out with a bathwater, with a kind of, religion bathwater, because I was just very much anti that. I think what I intuitively knew was something meant to control rather than something meant to enlighten. But I always liked, I was curious. I think I declared when I was 13, or a young girl anyway, or if I was to choose a religion, I would choose Buddhism, even though I didn't know anything about it. But I know now that was why. I think I was just interested in something more. And in a way, science for me is my spirituality. There's a lot around science and the curiosity about life's mysteries and how things work, and that I I don't see science and spirituality as separate. I see them as actually different routes to the same thing, and philosophy and all of that. So when I felt the resistance, it was because of that upbringing. But I was told in my studies that actually just allow the resistance, don't try and push through it, just be curious. And to me, there was that sense of, notice the resistance and just be curious. That was like the scientist in me, just curiosity. I can do curiosity. No one's trying to impose anything on me. And I think that's what the resistance was. So when I suddenly became curious, it was like, actually, it's okay. I can take what I want, leave the rest, just wonder about it. And that's how I feel about spirituality. It's like I don't want to impose anything to anyone. Sometimes I feel like that's the problem. There are doctrines that people, organizations, whatever, are trying to impose on people. It's almost like we're trying to shove things down your throat and box you in. And, there's evidence in the world that that's what it's done. Religion has created a lot of war and suffering because it's separating us, as opposed to doing what spirituality is, which is actually realize we're all the same. We're all spiritual beings in human bodies, and it doesn't matter what you believe. You get to choose what you believe. But let's connect in that respect, that mutual respect, that we are more than what we appear, and let's honor that. So that reverence for everything. I mean, I am going to sound woo-woo and naive, but the stones and the birds and the earth and everything has spiritual. So for me, yeah, Buddhism, maybe even Native American, I really resonate a lot more with that sense of spirit being life, not being God, not being a white man with a beard on a cloud. I don't resonate with that, but being actually the spirit of life, and life wanting to express itself and play through us.
And I'm going to come back again to the wonderful Elizabeth Gilbert, because in her book Big Magic, she talks
Mm.
about downloads and that sense that the universe will give you an idea, and if you don't take it it'll move on to someone else and go with it. And she tells a fantastic story about how she had this idea for a book but didn't pursue it, and then somebody else wrote the exact same book elsewhere. It's an incredible story. But this universe and the connection that you have now with it, and the reframing of what do I want from life to what does life want from me, was this book a download in that essence?
No, again, I wish whenever I hear that, I'm like, I want to download. I want to just be able to be a scribe and take notes from spirit. I'm so jealous of that, of people who do that. No, it was a hard grind at times. And, maybe some of it is my own resistance, but from that point of view, a lot of it comes from my story. So the way it started was wanting to leave a trace. So I never wanted to be a writer. I never thought of being a writer. That was never a dream of mine. So I guess from that point of view, this was me almost doing something reluctantly, like the little ego, little part of me saying, no, I don't want to do this. And then this nudge, I don't know how I can describe it, this sort of like tap on the shoulder from spirit of like, I think that's what you're supposed to do. I think that's what you're supposed to do. I think that's what you're supposed to do, in lots of different forms, messages from people. And anyway, this.
So how are these not the downloads? How are these not the nudges from the universe?
Yeah, so they are. So they are. That's what I'm saying. It's just that in terms of the actual writing, it wasn't like, the light comes down and there's this flowing and I'm just writing in the whole book in 2 days. No, it wasn't that. So, but there was, and to me, it manifested as just a knowing that the only way I can describe it is this. It's thoughts, it's persistent thoughts or ideas that come to me, but they're not emotional. There's no shame attached. There's no blame. They do feel like they come from a wise master or wise parent that's like, come on. Yeah, come on. And sometimes I feel there's the little part of me that's resting, that's like, no, I don't want to listen, I don't want to do it, find somebody else. And there's the kind of, but okay, once the tantrum is over, come on, let's do this. So I started writing. So it is my story, and a lot of my first draft was about putting my story in words. So it wasn't this lovely download of angelic channeling or whatever. So that it was a lot of what's the word? It's hard. It's hard to kind of put your story on paper and finding my voice. But I think the effect that has had on me actually writing the book, I'm a different person for having written it. It's like I've detached from my story. I've spoken about the shame, I've written about the shame, and it's like I've just let it go. So it's been really transformative, and not just for me. I really feel it for my family. I kind of see the ripple effect that has had on other people.
Tell me about the ripple effect.
I almost want other people to talk for themselves, because I'm always worried about saying things on their behalf, but I'll try and talk from my experience. Some of what I talk I don't talk a lot about it in the book, but I do talk about my experience growing up of not feeling that being a woman was a pleasant experience through witnessing my dad abuse my mother, mostly verbally and psychologically and emotionally, but sometimes physically. And I don't have many memories. I have one that I talk about in the book. So that was a big thing to talk about. But to me, there was a real push from within about, this has to be the truth. Almost like, the truth, I swear to tell, the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth kind of thing. It was kind of like, okay, I'm going to have, these things have to be said. And interestingly, these are things that we have spoken a lot in my family to some extent about these things. So it wasn't new, but actually to name it in that way and for it to kind of go out was a big thing. And I didn't really ask for permission. I remember sharing the beginning of the manuscript with my mum and sister. the two people that I felt safe to do it with, to say I'm not really asking for your permission, but it's like you have a, you have a right to know, because it's not just my story to tell. And I have other siblings, and there's my dad, and the problem with my dad is he doesn't speak English, so I've had to have this conversation with my family, and it's just, yeah, it's hard to put into words and to sort of say, it has what happened just down to me, but I'm going to say what I feel. People can disagree with me. Is that I think it has, it's like it's put the shame into the light, and it's just freed something. So it's allowed for a lot more open conversation with my dad. I think my older sister, I think she's had some other reckoning of herself about actually how she lived her own childhood. And yeah, I think my mum as well, I've seen it. I mean, she's been totally behind me 100%. And actually my dad as well, he said, even though he can't read the book, it's in English. I did tell him, I mentioned some themes there, and he said, you've got my blessing. So it's given meaning, actually. I feel in a lot of ways. I know you and I both love Viktor Frankl, Man's Search for Meaning, but in a way, I kind of feel like it's given meaning to a whole lot of really unpleasant experiences growing up, and still now. My parents are still divorced. Well, I mean, they're sorry, still divorced. Of course, they're still divorced. They're divorced, but there was a lot of taboo in that separation still, and I think there's been a lot of healing and a lot of coming back together as human beings.
Nathalie, I am slightly distracted by the things that are over your shoulder. I just want to say, you've got your pile of books and your book on display. Below that, you have a rose, so that representing your briar. You have a lighthouse, so this fantastic beam of light giving a source of direction and focus for anybody who's navigating troubled waters. You have a row of books which look like you've got marks in, and you've put things that are important in there. And you've also got a Russian doll, so symbolizing fertility and the multiple layers of, you open up, there's more to be found, keep going, and it's there. I can't quite work out what's on the top shelf. Is it a mask? What is that to the
Yes,
left?
it is a mask, and there's a candle. It's actually a candle holder,
Okay.
and that has a sort of, and I don't know, I don't remember where I got this from, but it's like it's a mask, almost looks like an
Okay. So you've
African
got
mask.
you've got a light to sort of shine again, and then you've got this mask which you have not, you're not wearing. It's not there. I mean, talk about metaphors all on a shelf to represent everything that you've spoken about. So I was just looking at it going, wow, I need to mention this.
Yeah, thank you, because it's, yes, someone recently was asking me, saying, yeah, I want to know what these things behind you mean, but you've pretty much said it. All of it.
Well, it is just my interpretation. So I just wondered, is it very much curated for that purpose, or?
Yeah, well, yes and no, as in a lot of them are things that I like. So like the lighthouse I bought a long time ago, it's an incense burner, so you put incense and then smoke comes out. The Russian dolls are very meaningful to me, so they were a gift as part of my I can't say it now, psychosynthesis training. And it was an accessory for one of the training weekends, and there is symbolism there about the different personalities that we have, and the different, from the inner child and those things. So yeah, it's meaningful to me. And the rose, I did put the book, and I did think somebody gifted me those roses last week, and I thought, okay, I'll put them. And the mask, I was looking for something because I didn't have my book few weeks ago. I didn't have this shelf, had something else on, I think other books. So I was making a display with my book, and I thought, I'm just going to put this mask. But there was something about, there's a candle, I don't tend to light it, but this idea of the mask, and a bit like you said, actually, this idea that, yes, I've taken the mask. I'm a deep thinker, so I remember thinking, oh, will people think that I wear a mask? What should I do? But the symbolism for me was around this idea that actually, yes, we're spirit, and yes, we have the light, but we do need to embody. We do need our sub-personalities, our personas are not bad. They're not things that we need to share. Well, we need to be able to not fully identify with them, but we need to identify to be in the world. We need to be, the podcaster, the writer, the ambassador, we need to take all these roles on. It's important for us to actually bring that light of spirit into form. And that takes work, and that takes discipline, and that takes skills. That actually all these parts that we develop when we're young, that come from survival. The work of psychosynthesis is about healing these parts and allowing them to evolve into a greater version of themselves. So if we talk about archetypes, they all the little sub personalities they're like seeds of divine archetypes. The people pleaser might be, I'm trying to think now what could come, it is deeply empathic and sort of, lover of harmony. The taskmaster can just be a fierce warrior or warrioress. And it's about, recognizing that each of these parts have a seed of something greater, and being the queen in your own realm. That's the image that I have, being the conductor of those different parts, and knowing when to let one step forward and step back. So yes, thank you for noticing. Thank you for noticing the shelf.
Yeah, thank you. Well, I'm aware that obviously I release this as audio, so someone might not see it. And it was just something that while you were speaking and sharing and talking about the journey and how you've brought in all these pieces, I just thought, well, okay, there's something here. I'm just going to mention it. So thank you for sharing. Oh, Nathalie, we could talk for ages. I know we can. So I'm going to have to start to wrap this up, but how could someone reach out and connect with you and find your book, share with us? I know the links will be in the show notes, but share with us the best routes for those.
So I'm on social media. I'm on, my main platform is LinkedIn. That's where I grew up, I would say. I'm also on Instagram, starting to dabble in Instagram, but LinkedIn's the best place to find me. I have a website at cordellcoaching.com, and I share my writing on Substack, a platform called Substack, through Soul Seeds, which I know you'll see. So I have a link tree, which I think I'll give you with all those links of where you can find me. And there will also be links to ordering the books, which can be found through Troubadour, which is my publisher, but also through any major retailer. So Waterstones. It is on Amazon. Amazon, for any budding author out there, does take a lot of the profit. So I try and direct people to other platforms, but it's also on Amazon. And yeah, I think that's it.
Perfect. Thank you very much. Again, thank you to Rachel for introducing us, but thank you so much, Nathalie, for sharing your focus on why with us. Really have thoroughly enjoyed the conversation. How would you like to close out the episode?
It's been a real blessing, and I knew from the moment I met you that that I would love this conversation. I think the biggest thing I'd love people to take away, what I've learned, and I think it's a spiritual quote. I don't know if it's someone in particular, but life happens for you, not to you. And it doesn't matter what you go through, you have the power to create an amazing life. And it may not feel it where you are at. You can be in the darkest place and not see it. But when you start to do the work, you can completely transform your life. I've transformed my life over the last 7 years. And it doesn't need to be big. It doesn't need to be flamboyant. Just take one step at a time. And ask yourself, what would I love?
That's a wrap for today, but the journey doesn't end here. Share your takeaways, leave a review, or post your insights. Your voice helps others discover the value of these stories. Want to dive deeper into purpose? Check the show notes for ways to work with me. Get a copy of my book, or to sign up for Friday Focus, my weekly newsletter packed with clarity and inspiration. Have a purpose, have a plan, focus on why.